Going to be an action-packed one, starting on Dragon Scales in the top left of the map, representing Maturino Esports. It's Max Angel, Astrea.
And spawning over in the bottom right as our blue Terran, representing the Shopify Rebellion, it is ByuN.
Astrea famously spent a couple of months earlier this year playing Terran, even in a lot of tournaments, and trying to just learn all the ins and outs because he felt this matchup specifically was a weak point. He learned a lot. He got to a pretty high level with Terran, and he said, you know what, I think I've learned enough. I have a bit more of an understanding of Terran's strengths and weaknesses, how to try and play around them, and has had a lot of success since he's gone back to maining Protoss. He's been very, very well-rounded. The thing is, I think in PvP and PvZ, his creativity really shines. But against that aggression from ByuN, you said it, it's the 3 racks on 2 base, stim, shields, you got ByuN parading across. There's not that much room for creativity. You've got to stop a few of ByuN's blows before you get a chance to really indulge in that creative side.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a guy that likes to freestyle a little bit and come up with these, you know, kooky kind of builds, that's all well and good, but against Terran, they're the guys that are going to be putting the pressure on you, so it doesn't allow as much creativity. Granted, there is space and there is room for it, but like you see here, ByuN's opted for that barracks and a little bit of a cheeky spot there to try and get the Reaper right across the map, but also the double gas opening afterwards. Now, Astrea just needs to kind of tick the boxes and make sure he finds out where it is, and he's going to be on point about that, so nothing too scary for him so far.
20 Nexus goes down, goes to the pylon behind it. Very straightforward opening for Astrea. Now, Astrea's been known to be a little greedy in the follow-up here, right? Sometimes they can go for a 3 Reaper 2 Hellion pressure. Astrea does like to just go straight Twilight Council and still play a Blink opening. That can be very greedy. It could be something that ByuN does potentially look to punish.
I mean, there is absolutely a large array of very aggro builds from Protoss these days, such as, like, you know, the 4-gate Blink Stalker has been scary for a long time. This is a map that's fairly viable for it, but these Terrans, they've had to kind of fine-tune their builds just to make sure that they are safe against the potential of that. And honestly, the way they've done it as well, it's been super simplistic. It's like, instead of going for the 2 or 3 Widowmine drops, you go for like 1 instead, get the tank production going. But here, this Reaper's already being a little bit of a nuisance, but not truly getting stuff done, because Astrea's micro with those probes was very nice.
I like what you mentioned about just small adjustments from the Terrans to be safe against 4-gate Blink. The depot wall, rather than at the front of the natural, they do a half wall near the ramp to protect the siege tanks from the forward Blink. I don't know if ByuN really has to worry about that, though. This might be one of Astrea's big weaknesses in the matchup. He basically is nowhere near as good at 4-gate Blink as like a Max or a Hero. And I think because of that, a guy like ByuN won't even respect the threat of it. He can get away with going for a 3 or 4 Widowmine drop. He can really push those edges and know that Astrea's 4-gate Blink is not his best build.
No, definitely. And I mean, that is something that, I mean, even if somebody isn't the best at the 4-gate Blink, you have to respect the 4-gate Blink, because we've seen players such as Maru get eliminated just from an unlucky siege at the wrong time, you know? But it is going to be that Blink opening. So far, it's going up to 2 gates, but we do know Astrea does tend to favor those very, very greedy kind of styles. This Reaper getting a really nice scout. Won't be able to get out of there, but the scouting information is all he was after.
Looks like the probe finally went down in about 3.5 minutes as well. He got so much information for Astrea. He saw the Widowmines coming out. He's expecting this drop. He has gone 2-gate Blink, a Robo. He's going for a 3rd Nexus behind it. If Astrea can stop this Widowmine drop for the most part, he's going to be in a very good spot.
Let's see if he actually gets to spot it. I don't think he would have done there, you know, which is kind of unfortunate for him. You see, he's putting these Adepts in a position where he thought the medevac might go. Now, he is going to have some Stalkers ready back at home, but you do have to respect this. In Astrea, yeah, 3rd base very, very quickly. Blink is halfway done. And this medevac is getting in, and it's totally unscathed. I love dropping it at the ramp there between the bases.
One Stalker does not defend a Widowmine drop all on its lonesome. This is a big problem right now for Astrea. He's warping in a few more. The Widowmine in the natural will get stopped. Very good handling so far, but 2 Widowmines still alive in the medevac. They're going to retreat to the corner and wait until something else is going on. Wait for a distraction to pair up with this and go back in again later.
Tell you what, Astrea actually handled that really well. Obviously, there's like lost mining time, but not losing anything against a 3 Widowmine drop. Like, honestly, very often, it's like, okay, if I lose 3 probes and they're all, like, on cooldown and they get away, that's kind of an okay situation. But now he's got that medevac pinned, he at least gets to see it, and he's very far ahead in workers right now, so his greed is absolutely paying off. But that Raven that's coming out, I mean, that's also going to get across the map without being spotted by Astrea. Astrea's getting a little bit unlucky here.
Yeah, ByuN's the master of threading the needle. I'm telling you, in this matchup, I've seen so many of his drops and Ravens just barely slip by Stalkers, and Astrea was looking for it. He sees it now, and he's like, you're kidding me. I must have been 2 seconds away from blocking that Raven. But now that it gets into the dead space, it's got easy access on the natural and the third mineral line for future harassment. That means Astrea needs to dedicate a few Stalkers to defending it. Behind this, the Marine tank coming forward, the Observer sees it. He knows there's a big push he's got to deal with. The probing needs to take second priority. He needs pylons, shield batteries, and army units. Right now, Astrea is getting close to a supply block, dangerously close.
I tell you what, though, being at that probe count 55, if he's stopping now, which he has done, by the way, and he's still dealing with these drops pretty damn well, I'm liking his play so far this game, Pig. This is actually very hard to do, but he's doing a good job. Those Widow Mines are going to be cut down as well. He knows the army's moving out and where it is. I'm just scared about when that Colossus pops, that Raven is in a prime position to just disable it.
Yeah, he's going to have to F2 everything to the front to try to hang on to this third base. 4 Stalkers against 2 tanks and a pack of Marines. A scary position for Astrea right now, but he's being patient with his micro. Great focus fire. Bunch of those probes will fall. 3 workers going down. Raven is waiting in the back, as you said, ready to go in. Auto turret harass on the natural. That means it won't be available for the interference matrix, but it's getting good eco damage. ByuN's tanks and Marines are very far forward. The Stalkers and the Colossus are going deep on that. Nice battery overcharge. Does keep that Colossus alive. Stalkers take out the siege tanks. That's going to be a cleanup.
That warp in there, he warped in a bunch of Stalkers that just got one shot because they were so low health on the warp in. That was actually quite a bit of a blunder. If not for that, I'd have really liked Astrea's position, but 8 probes go down for all the trouble, and now the worker count is completely even. Granted, we talked about this. ByuN isn't the kind of guy that takes a third base super damn quickly. He is moving out. It's going to be more aggression on his side of things, but he is super committed and invested into dealing more damage here.
It's all about the momentum. You've got to keep it moving here as ByuN. The delayed third commands, and I mean, you've got shields +1 kicking in about 30-40 seconds. If you can get a drop in the main base, maybe hit the third with some other bio units at the same time, that's going to be the play to make. The observer movement's been fantastic for Astrea. He's done a good job of tracking where these units are. Uh-oh, ByuN's drop is exposed. Astrea gets one of those medevacs down. The units start to unload. This is an amazing catch for Astrea.
Astrea's on ball this game, man. He's on real point here. I mean, the fact that he got kind of unlucky with scouting some of those units across the map, it's not because he was misplaying or anything. It was literally just a few pixels away from being able to spot it. But here, he has shut down the aggression. He can probe up like a madman. He's getting charge online, and ByuN, he's doubling down. Like, he's got that third base on the way, but not on location, going to 4-5 barracks here. Yeah, he's going to be sweating at this point because he's going to start having to do real crazy plays to get back into this one.
And look at that, no gases on the third for Astrea. Lots of gateways coming in charge, and a third Colossus. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Warp Prism and a big timing attack out of him to take out ByuN's third base. Astrea's already got a big advantage, and I think he's saying to himself, hey, why risk going up to 70 probes? Why take a 4th base? You know, put yourself in a defensive stance. Terran has an opportunity to catch you out of position. But if you wait for that Warp Prism and then you hit a big attack with it, there's no Vikings out. There's no Ghost yet. There is a big tech deficit for ByuN.
And this, is that little cheeky Marine going to be able to get that Observer? That could be a big hit. It won't. But there is still Raven damage going on in the main base. And I think the Raven, is it still alive after that little scenario? I don't... Oh, it did go down. So that also enables these Colossus. And look at Astrea. He's already ready to pounce. And this could get real damn spicy.
That third command zone is looking mighty exposed. ByuN starts to move to the middle of the map. Is he going to turn around, or does he go for the base trade? I don't think he can fight this army yet. He realizes he cannot beat that army. ByuN is going to try to go for the base trade right now. And remember, there's no Disruptors, there's no Dark Templar behind this. Astrea needs to either recall right now, or he's going to have to commit 100% to the base.
Oh, that's a juicy pylon to take down. The Robo and 3 gateways. He's going straight for the Nexus. This is reminiscent of Pult style here, but chaos on both sides. ByuN isn't going to be able to hold that. But neither is Astrea in his main base.
It's a bit more important to see Astrea on ByuN's side of the map because ByuN had a lot more units popping out. I think Astrea lost quite a few Stalkers in the trade, so that bottom right side is what's most important because there is nothing being warped in at home by Astrea to defend. He is warping more Stalkers on the front. Both sides are losing everything. The production is starting to float. The SCVs are evacuating. ByuN knows army versus army, he loses this game, but with floating buildings and with Stim Bio, maybe in a base trade he can make it happen. I believe this is the point where Astrea should start thinking about recalling to his third base. If ByuN heads over there, there's no reason to lose that last expansion as Astrea.
I mean, the thing is, his army is still a lot bigger and a lot better. He shut down all production. Astrea's still on one base. And I mean, he does have the minerals to spend and get probes out there. That's exactly what he's trying to do. And look at ByuN, he knows it as well. He doesn't want this game to go on. He wants it to get messy. He wants it to get scrappy. Astrea's trying to run home here with everything that he does, and he is on his way home.
Astrea's a little spread out right now. His army needs to gather back together. ByuN does not have recall. Terran don't have magic, unlike the Protoss players, so they've always got that opportunity. Last Nexus goes down. Command centers are burning. Astrea rebuilding on that side of the map. 26 Blink Stalkers, 3 Colossus, and a Warp Prism. That is an astounding army to face against pure Bio. ByuN needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat right now, and apparently that rabbit is pick up into the medevacs and try to get the heck out of dodge. He is just going to boost over towards the Nexus and try to eliminate that last building of Astrea, but with those Stalkers coming right hot on his tail, it seems like a long shot.
Astrea's the big bad kid on the playground right now. He's got ByuN right where he wants him. He's going to shut down this Nexus, but we know that Astrea has money. He can make another Nexus here, and ByuN, look at that. Oh, this is such a problematic situation for him.
Oh, those medevacs are going to get jumped on. The Stalker's got to be careful. Looks like one of those Stalkers almost goes down, but the medevacs, man, Colossus walking to the high ground. ByuN here, making his best effort to make a match out of it, but it seems like it's checkmate.
I mean, okay, when you see that sign, rebuild, and it's GG. Astrea with a nice little fist bump there after game one, and he looked smooth, man. Like, the one mistake that I can really say from Astrea was that warp in, but I mean, that was kind of like, all right, you're doing everything perfect so far, shutting down all the aggression. Yeah, you were unfortunate, but once the game got going, he shut the aggression down that we talked about. He survived, he weathered the storm. Then he made the call that, hey, that Raven in the back of my base, it can't do what you wanted to do in the army. I'm just going to go and get you.
Yeah, I think it's a good tutorial for all the Protoss players out there on the ladder. Remember, next time you get 3 Widow Mine dropped, a single Stalker, all you need to defend, just play like Astrea. Easy. I'm pretty sure that ends with 2 dead mineral lines every time a normal Protoss player is in that situation, but really well handled, and even though that Widow Mine dropped, the Raven were both distracting him, he actually took fights very good here, despite that little mishap there with warping in range of the siege tank. Only lost a couple Stalkers, a couple probes, and this was a fantastic catch. And this came off the back of his observer movement. He wasn't just leaving it sieged up in the Terran base, he was shuffling them around the map to try to track ByuN's movements, and it was that activity that netted Astrea the big advantage.
I mean, nice attempt by ByuN, honestly, because we saw him in a position, it's like he has to do something crazy here. This was the crazy he needed, and it actually kind of gave him a little bit of a chance, but that army, he had no way of establishing anything, and once the Protoss is on top of your production, that's it. There's nothing else coming out, and you know, the starport there as well, it's getting totally camped. I think that was one of his big focal points, just to make sure there's nothing else to save this army.
Yeah.
And yeah, ByuN was just on the run.
No medevacs, no Vikings. Colossus, such a problem unit in that scenario. And Astrea finds a way to take the map. Very, very good way to start the series for him. And definitely something he's going to be comfortable with. I think ByuN, learning from that game, is going to say, let's not let a probe scout the first 4 minutes of my opening. Let's, you know, try to deny that information just a little bit more. It's all well and good to see what the Protoss is up to, but if they can see everything you're doing as well, you can see the way Astrea was setting up, looking for the Raven, looking for the Widow Mine drop. Gonna have to keep him in the dark a bit more. Hunt the observers down, shut down the probe scouting, shut down the Protoss vision in this matchup.
Absolutely. Like, Astrea, like, this is a difficult matchup for Protosses these days. You know, we've seen a lot of Terran dominance, but Astrea looked clean, cool. He played very standard, very safe, greedy like we like to see him play, but he was not caught off guard whatsoever. And I think a lot of it came down to how well he dealt with that first Widow Mine drop, the 3 Widow Mines. But here we're going to get into it. Ancient Cistern spawning in the top right as our red Protoss. It is Astrea.
Sending one of his first probes across the map. Could just be to harass, could be for a proxy. We'll see if his opponent's ready for it. Representing the Shopify Rebellion, one of the big fan favorites in any tournament he goes to. Always wears his heart on his sleeve. The Terran player in the bottom left, it's ByuN.
This is almost like an old school SOS type probe, you know, sending out one of your very first dudes just to go and harass constantly. Can always put a thorn in the side of your opponent.
Very good for catching that early proxy barracks is the ideal, and just getting that harassment in, forcing an SCV off the line. It's never a bad move, and it can give you a massive advantage. Oh! Oh, my lord! No way. No, it's too close. I think the SCV can get that hit. He needs the regen. He needs the regen, and he does.
Probes are fast.
Nice move. I like the way he didn't turn, because he realized that SCV was so hot in the tail. Astrea knew that if he turned a corner even a little, if he changed angle, he was going to get hit. So he just went in a straight line right up to the cliff, got those couple of shields regenerated so he could tank one hit, and does keep the probe alive. I always feel like we should see that move more often when people go through the mineral line because it's so rare. ByuN goes for it, and Astrea shows us just why that doesn't happen much at the pro level. People are just too quick.
Absolutely. Like, he mineral walked very instantly there to get out of that little surround. Nice attempt by ByuN, but that's one of those moments where you're like, damn, I'm like 50 minerals behind of where I should be. And then he brought out the SV to try and catch it, but he does get it eventually. Astrea getting a little bit too confident with how lucky he got with that probe earlier and does bite the dust. But he gets the scout that it's a Marine first, not a Reaper at least.
Indeed. Knowing he's not going to be dealing with any early harassment does give you a bit of freedom as the Protoss player. If you want, you can go straight for a Stargate, skip the Adept, something like that. You know, there's a few different options you have here to speed things up. You definitely don't need to chrono boost your gateway unit as well. A few more chrono boosts into probes early on, going to boost that economy and make up for the fact that you sent such an early worker across the map.
Yeah, ByuN's totally in the dark this game, by the way. Besides seeing that early probe, he did not scout out and about. He's not going to have a Reaper for a while as well. So that's why he's playing super safe with his command center up on the high ground, because if an Adept comes over, one Marine will not be able to save you or get that CC up in time. So he's going for a nice reactor early opening. Hellion, that will be his scouting information for the time being, which definitely serves a purpose. But yeah, we're yet to see what he's going to go for. That is a sickeningly early third.
So he did chrono his gateway unit, by the way, but it was a sentry to Muslim. So he's going to go for the early hallucination scout, and I imagine we're going to see 3-gate robo off that third nexus. So with this build, Astrea loves to go very focused on just, you know, if you see this third as a Terran, what's your instinct? Go and kill it. There's no way you can be that greedy. I'm going to punish you. But he skips all the fancy tech like Stargate and Twilight Council. He just goes for a lot of raw, basic gateway units, gets an Immortal or two out. So if you make the mistake of trying to punish this with a fast Marine tank push, it actually goes really badly for the Terran.
There's going to be a lot of Marines out here. And I mean, this Hallucinated Phoenix does get to see the Marine count. Doesn't see any Widow Mines or anything yet, but you can almost kind of guarantee that they're going to be going for a Hellion just to scout you, and eventually he might get the heads up. But ByuN was so paranoid about something around his base, because, yeah, totally blind, as we talked about. And when he gets over in, he's like, what? That's the third Nexus, and that's already almost done? Yeah, I've got to start dealing some damage at some point.
Indeed, but you've got to be careful not to throw those units into the meat grinder. ByuN was already committing to Marine tank here, which you think is perfect for punishing this, but I am really worried that he might overcommit. Astrea has played this against so many different aggressive Terran pushes, and you might think an early third Nexus is greedy, but everything else he's doing tech-wise is so safe. He's just making sentries, stalkers, 3 gateways are up with Warp Gate finished, and no shield battery. That is a problem, though, for Astrea. No shield battery, and the Immortal hasn't started yet. He's going Observer first.
I'm a bit scared for Astrea. I mean, like, using this ramp could be good with these sentries, but this does not deal damage here, Pig, at all. Look at ByuN. He pounces on this army very, very quickly, and he is not ready whatsoever. And ByuN, he's got himself in a nice little position here.
Completely blindsided. I think Astrea must have thought this was a Widow Mine drop or something like that. He did not expect such an early tank here. And he hasn't even got an Immortal building right now. Astrea is trying to rebuild the pylon on that base. He's pulling the boys! He's going to try to jump on top. Massive tank shot targeted in the center of the probes. Stalkers will take out the siege tank. Astrea does clear the army, but at what cost? 13 probes going down. A Stalker falls as well. Great target fire by ByuN. And Astrea can chrono probes hard to try to get back in this, but definitely a great trade for ByuN.
All things said and done, pretty similar on the working out. Like, if you were looking at this game right now, you'd be like, oh, it's a fairly standard one, right? Not at all. The fact that he was so greedy and he had to sacrifice a lot of probes like that, that's kind of put him back in the dark ages, because that Robotech, it's late. But at least Stim and stuff hasn't started at all yet for ByuN. So, yeah, he definitely had to commit, definitely had to deal some damage, and he got just that.
Double Forge on the way for Astrea. Okay, so that tells us he's not going Twilight anytime today. It's going to be upgraded, just Stalkers and Zealots without actually having the Twilight upgrades for a while, Colossus with those, and he's going to be very campy. Like, he's just going to sit in his main, sit in his third, try to defend ByuN's drops and attack. Obviously, he will add charge at some point, but I think Astrea, seeing these 3 racks, is probably going to be bypassing Blink entirely for the early stages and really just looking to have perfect positioning.
Beautiful pull, by the way. Like, that Liberator didn't get 1 kill there, which could have very easily been done. I was kind of wondering what that Observer was doing in the main base, maybe thinking there's some weird Widow Mine dropper happening, but maybe a little bit of a misplay there. But Astrea's been very good about his Observers, just in really weird positions. It's the second one that's escaped in this series.
Yep, just gets itself out of trouble, and a double scan for that never feels good for the Terran. That's 450 minerals of opportunity cost down the drain. And yeah, guess what? I'm going to ambush you now, says Astrea. He doesn't have Blink. He's got a few force fields and a bunch of unupgraded Stalkers. He picks off a few Marines, which is a nice move. I do like the way he's kind of skirmishing on the map here. First Colossus is almost out. 1-1 upgrades are on the way. Astrea with lots of minerals in the bank. But I think his gateway count's still only at like 3, right?
I think it's definitely low. He's been kind of pushed a little bit here, and he is being greedy with those double forges. But I love the fact he was meeting that out on the map, seeing how late the stim was from his opponent. He could actually get away with these little skirmishes and whatnot, and ByuN has to be careful. That's sieging pretty far away, but look how ready Astrea is this time. Double battery behind it. That Liberator getting some work done at the natural, though.
Ooh, very well done by him there. Stalker Sentry's going to go forward to the battery overcharge. Tank shots are juicy. Colossus comes out as well. Zealot's going forwards. That should be a nice cleanup for Astrea. He's still up 8 probes behind this. Takes out the entire drop. Liberator in the main base rotates though. Astrea, oh, Colossus in the open. Distracted by that Liberator in the main. Big mistake for Astrea. He targeted that Colossus on an actual Marine, told it to attack it. That's why it was ignoring everything else and moving forwards. Astrea probably assumed that Marine had gone down, didn't realize that Colossus was still just walking across the map.
If he kept that Colossus alive, I'd have put him in a phenomenal shape, because look at his +1/1 timing. Being that into it already and being in the shape that he is, I'd have been sitting quite pretty. I mean, the Twilight Council is obviously super late, but ByuN feels that now his opponent's stretched quite thin, and now we can start dealing a lot of damage in this main base.
Yeah, battery plus slow Zealots. I mean, they tank a lot. They don't do much damage. And ByuN's got to be careful.
Ooh. It's close. I mean, he's lucky. He's playing around the fact that he knows his opponent doesn't have a super fast blink or anything, because, yeah, that could have been proper troublesome. But 1-1 will kick in fairly soon for Astrea, and then he can start fighting this army a little bit. But, oh, man, without shield batteries here to save the day, it's very problematic for him. ByuN's doing what ByuN does.
Great multi-prong, finding any weakness he can. He does lose 2 medevacs and a pack of bio, but notice how well he's trading. The units lost tab tells us a story, and that is one of Terran dominance. 50% more efficient. That is amazingly good for ByuN. Astrea needs to get into Twilight Tech. He's doing a slow Zealot run by, and it's actually getting a fair bit of damage. Not every day you see that. 5-6 SCVs. Maybe a bit questionable choosing to fight there for ByuN. He's going to keep pushing on the front. Big Colossus shots on the ramp.
Oh, that was some laser damage there. Yeah, those +1/1 Zealots were actually way harder to kill with that 1 armor, especially against those SVs. It was very problematic for him. And look how greedy Astrea is, by the way. Thermal Lance 2-2 charge on the way, 6 Stalkers at once. But ByuN is not letting up here. He's just all about the aggression. Astrea's warping was all in the right place at the right time, but still, the firepower of the Terran here is very, very strong. Yeah,
those medevacs are looking pretty healthy. The Stalkers are going down, and they're such expensive units. And this is the problem with Astrea's style. He says, I'm behind, I can't get Blink, because I just need enough raw fighting units to engage on the ground. Problem, if you don't have Blink, you can't punish these sort of aggressive moves. ByuN coming in, focuses the Colossus, good pullback on that bad boy. Nice micro for Astrea. But every Stalker that goes down is an incredibly expensive unit, costing way more than those Marauders. And Armory's on the way, third base is now getting close to saturated. ByuN maintains a healthy supply advantage, most of which is in the army. And behind it, a second starport, second engineering bay, armory. All the things ByuN needs to play a proper macro game are coming in. And whilst Astrea does have a huge work account at 72, he's still very lacking in vision on the map, in map control, and in tech. He can't really see where ByuN is on the map. He's got like 1 observer out here, and even defending that 4th base is a huge problem.
Time is on his side, though. Every moment that goes past is when these upgrades kicking in. Charge is done now, which will help a lot for dealing with these Marauder-heavy armies with your Zealots. And that 2-2, once that finishes up, he is clear ahead in upgrades. Yes, he's behind supply, but he gets tabs on where the army is. He has to be so careful, though, because this Stalker-heavy mix that he has, without Blink, super brittle.
Nice Zealot run by. Anything to buy time, as you said, to Muslim. That's going to be so powerful. That's going to be amazing to try to take care of all of that. Zealot's going after the SCVs as well. And there we go, dropping in the main. ByuN, if he pulls his whole army home, that's really bad for him. Because Astrea just needs time. I don't know about such a big Zealot warp, and that's a pretty big commitment. Good cancel for Astrea there.
It is a good cancel, and he gets a good eye on what the army is, which is very Viking heavy, but he is dealing a good amount of damage, Pig. We were looking at a 20 supply advantage for ByuN. No longer is that the case. He's down to 47 workers, 2 upgrades behind, 3-3 kicking in for Astrea here. He is feeling confident, and he's up to 4 bases.
He's got Storm on the way as well, so he's going to be rounding it out with that. There are ghosts on the map, so definitely a good upgrade versus the Vikings and the Libs. Storm can be very effective, but it is a little tentative. If the EMPs land just right, it's going to be hard to land those. Astrea still needs another 30 seconds to a minute. ByuN is not going to give him that time. ByuN realizes right now he's got a very strong army. And Astrea, remember, is still only on not that higher gateway count. He's got good upgrades, but 3-3 hasn't kicked in just yet. Double upgrade advantage for the Protoss. Astrea thinking about taking a 5th base. ByuN's army marauding at the front, looking for an opening. Astrea has shown that he can take a punch in this game, but ByuN wants to finish it right here, right now.
Oh, those force fields buy a good bit of time, and there's no shield barriers close to these Colossus. Look at them. They're sitting ducks over here. There's so many Marauders getting a good wraparound of this army. The Vikings reign supreme in the skies. That 2-2 gateway number, it is going to be fighting, but look at the amount of Terran just pushing the limit. The Vikings land. The Storm, though! The Storm are huge!
Massive storms for Astrea. Save the day. The Warp Prism will go down. A couple of Vikings do fall as well. Blink finally, for the first time in this game, allowing Astrea to actually punish ByuN's aggression, and Astrea is still up in supply, but that's all workers. He's down in army supply, and he just had his tech unit count reset. He's got no storms available. He doesn't have any Colossus on the field. ByuN wants to keep fighting right here, right now. Astrea needs to chrono boost the Colossus, needs to get some more high tempo up, and he's got to hang on for dear life. Zealot run by is going across the map. ByuN cleans up the Observer. His army is a bit wounded. Those medevacs are low on juice, but he's still got the tech and the forward advantage right now, does ByuN.
I mean, these High Templars, oh, they're getting good EMPs on them. I mean, the Ghosts are feedback, though, so they are out of the fight. But ByuN ahead in supply now. Shield Barrier Overcharge. It's got a dream of work to do here. Big EMPs land on this army, but I don't think there's enough for Astrea. He's got 1,000 minerals in the bank, 500 gas as well, but too much ByuN. He's doing it. He's melting that Protoss army.
Just not enough gateways to spend that money. And Astrea, he shows he can take a punch. He makes ByuN work for it, and you can see the visible pain. Having a micro that hard in so many fights for so long comes at a very, very real cost. But ByuN does stay alive for now. Ties up the series 1-1.
Very, very important for him to get his head back into that game because he needed to do something. That initial push out with the Marine tank that he did, the fact that Astrea had to pull against that and got all his probes blasted by that tank, that was definitely problematic, but I was very impressed with the fact that Astrea, everywhere I looked, I was like, okay, he is holding, he's losing the fight, but he was still more than in the game. Just maybe a little bit too greedy at the end there. He was trying to get a 5th base up against a 48 SFE Terran, trying to get that 3-3 online and stuff. Maybe just a few more gateways would have helped him out a lot, and just realizing how wounded ByuN was.
Shout out to ByuN, though, for finding the attack angles he did. He went in here like this so many times, over and over, abusing these very, very tiny openings in the armor of Astrea. And it was really his ability to find these fights. And here, no shield batteries. The shield battery was on the south of the 3rd base. Imagine if there was an overcharge healing those Colossus. The Stalkers are shooting down the Vikings. If even one Colossus survives here, this is a completely different game.
I mean, even talking about that one Colossus earlier that went on a little bit of a...
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of a
walkabout, yeah.
Yeah, had a bit of a late Friday night, just walked and stumbled into a Terran army. He's like, oh, don't really want to be here. But yeah, nice game between the two of them. If I was like the coach on either side, I'd be like, Astrea, you know what? Realize when you've done damage. You know, I know good old Artosa said, when ahead, get more ahead, but sometimes it's good to know when you're so far ahead and really buckle down, get your heels in and know where you are in the game. Because here, if he just got out a few more Zealots or Stalkers or just time buying on the map a little bit, he did a really good job with that Warp Prism early on, the little Zealot run by in the 3rd, but...
Well, it's crazy, right? Because it's that style that is so unique to Astrea, where he's able to fight back from behind, where he's able to just keep being greedy and hang on by just a tiny thread. That is what pushes him through to these great heights. We've seen it before, where it's like, hey, starting 3-3, that's a crazy choice, right? And in the end, yeah, a few more gateways would have been game-changing potentially, or a second robo. But of course, he was on life support for maybe 7-8 minutes in that game, somehow was surviving, and that's something where really only Astrea can do that. This is why I love watching his PVTs, is because he has this ability to bring back games where any other Protoss player would have been out at the 7-8 minute mark of that.
Yeah, I kind of like some of the shortcuts he took as well, where it's like, you kind of mentioned it, it's just going to be a lot of units, but then the Twilight Counts was so late, but he committed to the other things first, like the Forges, which was kind of a weird choice. You don't often see that, but then when his army was actually kind of brutal, like the charge upgrade finished in time with the 1-1 as well, it was kind of nice, but he definitely didn't make it easy for himself with such an early 3rd, right? But that early probe, he got to see that it was just a 1-gas opening. It was the Marine first as well. It's like, oh, I'm going to be safe for a while, right? And then ByuN's like, hold the phone. This isn't a Widowmine drop. This is me scouting you. I'm going to do this little tank push here, which actually did a lot of work as well.
Yeah, the slow Zealots with 1-1 kind of walking towards concussive Marauders around their base in circles We probably had each Zealot land on average about 1 hit before it went down. But they tanked. They bought time. And, you know, those Stalkers, if ByuN wasn't so good at actively focusing down the Stalkers in those engagements, all you're doing is picking off a few very cheap Zealots and then getting out. It was the fact that he was always shooting down 4-5 Stalkers, picking up and leaving, that allowed those trades to be so efficient. That depletes Astrea's gas. He's got to keep rebuilding these Stalkers that are so inefficient, and that's how he kept Astrea down in the dumps.
If I'm either one of these players, I feel like Astrea's in a more comfortable position. Just because the way that he's been playing so far, even though, like, the first game was super clean by him. The second game, there's obviously, like, you know, the Wandering Colossus got maybe caught a little bit off guard by the initial push, but he's showcasing that he can hold on even when things have gone really badly for him. So going into this third game, depending on what the map is between them, the pressure's definitely on ByuN here, because he is the favorite between these two. Let's not beat around the bush. He's definitely got a very, very favorable history against Astrea, but Astrea is showcasing that he is pretty damn clean if he can just eliminate the little shakes, a little bit of nerves that he talked about, you know, like just getting used to the setup and whatnot. Because so far, I'm very impressed by the Protoss that Astrea showcasing today.
He's playing his game, you know. I think a lot of players would shy away from that build, but he has faith in it. He says, no, I do pretty well with this in practice. Let's bring it out. ByuN, of course, there is a big question mark as he looked in a lot of pain at the end of that last game. We saw it earlier in his series versus Solar, where it was definitely flaring up a little bit, that wrist pain. But hopefully he can overcome it here and still show his A-game. Always definitely a trial for him at these live events. And it's something where he's dealt with all sorts of issues with those wrists over the years. I had a lot of physical therapy, talked to a lot of surgeons and the like, and they've all kind of said, you know, it's
mental.
It's a mental
There's
thing.
nothing there.
Yeah, it's basically they can't seem to find a physical culprit. He says, when I play at home, I feel all right, I feel fine, but when he gets on the big stage, the cameras, the nerves, all that excitement, that's when a lot of players crumble. So far, both of these players bringing their A-game, though. Down here in the bottom left side of Royal Blood, representing Matcha Reno Esports, it's Astrea.
Spawning over in the top right, as our Blue Terran, it is Shopify Rebellion's ByuN.
How do you feel about Royal Blood for this matchup, Ben?
You know, it's one of those maps that in general it is a good Terran map, especially like against the likes of Zerg especially. But when it comes to this matchup, there are definitely builds that I am more scared of than normal, such as like 4-Gate Blink Stalker, which we've already talked about. You know, if you put max packs on this kind of play, or this kind of map, he can definitely scare the absolute living crap out of you. But Astrea, he tends to lean to the other side of the spectrum, the more greedy side of the spectrum, which if he can weather the storm, then it can be all well and good, but there's lots of drop potential getting into the main base as a Terran, really scooting around the map. Do you take the forward triangular third? That can open up things as well. Overall, I'm just looking forward to see what the builds are going to be between these guys.
Barracks gas opening for ByuN. Looks like it's probably a Reaper expand. And just Marine first. Okay, going to be going for an expansion with a Marine to try and deny the scouting. Probe walks into the base and seeing no second gas. Astrea has a good idea of what he's up against. Of course, we've got that aim-high first-person view of both players here. Nice to see the speed at which they go around. Obviously, probably should have an epileptic warning, a seizure warning for anyone out there, because these pro gamers jump their screens around incredibly fast.
I think it's just double Astrea right now. I was like, they're looking at the exact same thing over here, Pig. And I don't think ByuN can see that Nexus right now at all, but it will be an Adept first here. Far more normal build from Astrea this time. He has been doing some of the sneaky stuff, like the Sentry first, getting that hallucination scout out afterwards and whatnot, but what is that building for ByuN? Is that it? Okay, so it's going to be 3 racks by the looks of it, unless it's a factory in the second barracks.
It could be factory second barracks, but it does look like a 3 racks to me as well. And if so, it's a rather crisp one, Ben. One where you're looking to hit very fast. So that, you know, there's no bunker, right? There's no bunker. There's no second gas just yet. Ooh. There's nothing to slow this down. No Reaper went down. These builds, like, if you do this really fast, you can hit with Stim Shields, 18 Marines right on the 5-minute mark, maybe even earlier.
Yeah, I seem to remember a nice game on Ancient System between a nice Australian and a British man with this build coming out and swinging pretty solidly. Right now, ByuN's done a good job just posturing here with the Marines, meaning that CC does go up uncontested. And Astrea, I don't believe he's going to get to scout this. Those barracks are nice positions there behind. And the barracks there as well, or rather the bunker there on the low ground, that doesn't truly give away that you're going for a 3 racks. In fact, that kind of leaves you more in the dark than ever, almost. But moving out with this bunch of Marines, I guess to tickle a little bit, and as long as he doesn't show too many more.
Yeah. You know, if I really think about it, maybe that bunker timing does give away a 3-Rex, because you'd normally build it earlier if you're worried about the first Adept, right? But then you wouldn't bother with it at this timing if you were, say, going a Cyclone. It's pretty rare to need that, right? I could be wrong, maybe, but it feels like if you got a Widow Mine out, just burrow that at the front, that keeps you safe.
Well, there's a few things. If you go for a Marine first opening without the Reaper, you need info unless you're doing a 3-Rex. Because a 3-Rex, it doesn't matter what you run into, because you've already showcase what you're doing. And here, he does sacrifice one Adept. It finishing the Shade gave it slightly more vision. Now he knows for sure what he's against. But yeah, you're kind of right, because otherwise you'd see a Hellion, you know, for sure, or something on the map. But
yeah,
Marauder production does start, Marine production as well. It isn't an engineering base, so it's not the super duper committed 3-Racks, but this is absolutely meant to do something.
Yeah, I mean, Astrea's got a super quick third Nexus, so this is a fragile position. If you're casting this one kind of with two amateur players, you say the Protoss usually just loses to this push when it comes out. At Astrea's level, obviously, he's got enough micro, and those Stalkers, look at that, already grabs a Marine, because he says, hey, if you're going to push out pre-stim, pre-concussive, I can pick off some units, but the Marauders are going to make that much more difficult for him. Good focus fire by Astrea so far, though. Already picked off one Marine, make it two. He's going to have to back off and let those shields regenerate. Third gateway's about to come up. The shield battery did already finish. I'm not sure if he has one on the third base as well. Stalker comes in from a bit of an odd angle.
You know, build order-wise, this is the perfect build for Astrea to do against this. Like, absolutely perfect. What he's doing here, meeting it out on the map, as a Terran, you don't want to stim. You wanted to get to the other side of the map unscathed, but Astrea, showcasing that early blink, he's also won 3 bases. He's playing this very nicely, and ByuN's already got himself into a bit of a tricky spot.
So ByuN's going to try and hide and flank the Stalkers, but Astrea's got units spread everywhere, so he's tracking him so well, giving ByuN no opportunity to get over there. And indeed, Astrea did skip the Robo, so keep in mind his vision's a little light. ByuN has the high ground vision there. Careful, Astrea.
He's got vision. He went up to the high ground with 1 Stalker. Now he can kind of pick it off. Now he forces stim. This army wants to get back home. It has to get back home. It cannot stay out on the map. And already there's 3-Racks. It's not worked out. And guess what? That starport only halfway done here, Pig.
He just cancelled his 4th and 5th barracks. He's going to put down a 3rd command center, is he?
Did he cancel 4th and 5th barracks?
I think that's what that was. We saw 2 buildings get cancelled there.
Okay, I'm thinking he wants to hide what he's doing for as long as possible. So he cancelled it on the low ground, and he's like, okay, I want to be greedy, because like, if you do put it on the low ground, obviously the reinforcements come in faster, but your opponent's right outside your front door. Yeah. Which, you know, when you do a 3-Racks build, they're not meant to be here, they're not meant to be containing you like this, but ByuN is pretty much super committed here.
Yeah, he's all in, Ben. I don't know if he can play a super long-term style. Now, Astrea's taken up really hard. He's going 66 workers. He's taken all the gases. He's got Dark Shrine, Forge, Twilight Council upgrades, and the Colossus tech all on the way at the same time. So he's going for so much tech. I think the Colossus timing honestly should keep him safe against a big 2-base push, but he needs to realize what's happening. If he takes a bit of a bad fight, loses a few Stalkers, things can turn around very badly. And I imagine there's going to be SCVs with this.
That was a nice little start for ByuN, getting out of this little contain. Even though it was the smallest contain, he did get a Stalker for his troubles, which isn't bad at all. Now, a nice micro by both of them there, just trying to keep every unit alive. But Astrea, yeah, he might be getting a little bit overeager here, because that was a lot of tech. But if DTs do come online, remember, you've only got 2 orbitals to work with for scans. Yeah. You could get into a situation where ByuN is absolutely strapped, and it's spread over too many places.
I like this. Snipe the Observer and look out for the drop. But a probe is setting up spotting pylons on the left of the map. Astrea right now dead even in supply. Down 20 army supply, up 20 workers. This is a very dicey moment for the Protoss player. But on the other hand, ByuN has so much pressure to get something done because he's got no progression, no third base, no SCV production, no extra tech. ByuN needs to make it or break it right now.
ByuN's doing a good job of being awkward with this drop. Like, he picks off a unit, then he repositions, picks off a unit, repositions. So he is kind of whittling away at Astrea. And if Astrea fights here, I like his army, obviously, but there's no shield battery. He could make this a lot easier for himself having a shield battery. But in this fight right now, great force fields by Astrea does keep the Terran army at bay, and he just needs time.
Yeah, these force fields are absolutely stunning. Massive, massive force fields. The Stalkers blink on the left side there. Widowmine does take out a Stalker, but overall, this army defense is so good. +1, extended thermal lance, and another Colossus are all about to hit the field for Astrea. More gateways kicking in. He starts a 4th Nexus. The greed knows no bounds. Now, don't get me wrong, Astrea's not probing up. But that is definitely very greedy, going for the Nexus, and a big drop splits off to the left side. ByuN's going to try and catch him out with the Doom drop.
He certainly is, and he's going to get into that main unscathed. No Stalkers waiting for it. I mean, that pylon as well is powering up quite a few A little bit there. Okay, it doesn't depower the Forge, which is a big deal, because +1 did just finish up. DT's getting walked in.
Here we go. You got to be careful, ByuN. You can't lose all these units. He's going to go after the Colossus. The Stalkers and the Colossus are outnumbered and outgunned right now. You cannot lose your gateways as Astrea. But the big army on the right of the screen comes in. Another Colossus gets sniped there. A lot of the bio does go down. Colossus rotates into the natural. Main base does get evacuated by ByuN. Dark Templar in his base at the same time, though. Everything is hitting the fan so quickly.
I mean, those DTs, there were like some defensively warped in, but those back at home as well. And they're going to continue just leaking in there. I mean, nice missile turret will go into the natural there. ByuN is on a clock here. He has to win in the next minute or two, or at least mortally wound Astrea to the point that, you know, he can't fight back. And now, using these DTs on the map, remember, only 2 orbitals. There's no third in sight for him.
Oh, this is so painful for ByuN. He's trying to pick up bio units to save them from the Dark Templar, but Astrea's army is just so small. I don't know if he can hang on. He's got quite a few Zealots warping in. Only 1 Colossus, though, losing a lot of those important units. I love the Stalkers trying to bait the Widow Mines, but nice micro for ByuN. Unburrows tries to reposition. He's on top of that third base. Astrea with very little support for this army. The Nexus goes down.
It certainly does. He does have a 4th base to move back to. He could potentially recall over there. I love this little Warp Prism play as well, just being like, I thought it was going to be a DT in there, actually, because that could have really put a spanner in the works for ByuN. But ByuN, he's respecting everything that's going on. He's getting some Vikings, mainly for the Colossus, but it'd be really good for shutting down that Warp Prism as well.
Ooh, Astrea trying to hunt this very wounded army down. ByuN's forced. He just picks up and boosts across the map like the madman that he is. Dark Templar forcing scans out left, right, and center, but that drop going towards the main. If he can get the production, Astrea is in the dumps. He does have that 4th base fully mining, 3rd base trying to rebuild, but the main base is wide open. I think ByuN may just have found the mark to finish this series, Ben.
Where is the defense for Astrea? Like, he's not knowing about these drops at all. Luckily, he is Protoss. He does have recall. What does he come in with? Because he has to respect the army. Colossus in the thick of things does get taken out. He does manage to get back into his base. Snipes the empty medevac, unfortunately for him. But ByuN, he's not doing just one thing at one time. He's obviously getting to a nice position. And that 4th base, remember, he just used recall. He can't get over here. These probes, they are goners.
That is an absolute disaster. Astrea losing 20 workers on that base. And the Zealots that had just warped in. ByuN has such a big obstacle for any Protoss players in this tournament. His TVP, even when it feels like things aren't necessarily going his way, his movement is on another level. His ability to find the weakness of the Protoss, to find a way to get inside that main base. And look at that, jumping on that army, that 1 Immortal and Colossus trying to stand strong. Astrea taking a fantastic defensive engagement, but he is just so outgunned.
I don't think he knew what was exactly happening here. I mean, the scouting for him this game, he just hasn't seen any drop go into him. And I mean, it's because ByuN's been so pressuring on him, right? Like, he's just really strangled him. He's not been above 40 pros for the last 5 minutes, or SCVs rather.
Yeah, this is super all in from ByuN. But Astrea finds himself outgunned, and he's got less economy now as well. The Colossus raining down death on that bio army. But there is just so much Terran on the map. The Medevacs and the Vikings reigning supreme. 2 Colossus somehow still alive. Astrea does have that 3rd base mining right now. He just doesn't have that many workers. The Vikings will fall. The Colossus, the Zealots, the Immortals trying to get down there. Losing that Nexus is a death sentence. Astrea cannot lose that, but he does.
He certainly does. Will they get... Oh, 1 medevac is sniped. I'm not sure how many units it had in that, but ByuN's still ahead in supply. But remember, he can float over that main. I think that's exactly what he's doing. Sorry, guys, the minimap's a little bit far away, but yes, he will be re-expanding, I guess, to the 3rd base, even though he's never taken one there in the first place. But right now, he slows down a little bit, just because those SCVs aren't mining. But Astrea's main base must be getting kind of tarnished here.
The protracted 2 base all in for ByuN, utilizing that mechanic. So useful for Terran, being able to float that base down. The Dark Templar have been effective, but I definitely think they were the lowest priority in this game to Muslim. I think at the end of the day, having just a few Zealots trickling in on the backstab would have probably been more effective, because, you know, this has allowed ByuN to kind of use his scans immediately to have combat effect, clearing up gas units of the Protoss. If you realize it's a 2 base all in, I mean, +1 attack and Colossus, that's more than enough. It's more about getting enough Zealots and Stalkers and having the positioning. Astrea's first wave of force fields was so good on the defense. Maybe replacing the sentries could have worked out, and hey, apparently he decides, you know what's good? Force fields worked out well earlier, let's do it again. And he's going to potentially just look for one big split on the army and see if he can take him out with Colossus Sentry.
You know, this is the kind of game where Archons would have been a dream, by the way. Like, ByuN being so committed, Ghost Academy's only just finished. A few of those big glowy boys would have been really damn good against that army, just for tanking, with these Colossus reigning supreme on the back line. Now, Astrea, He's 15 army supply down. This is ByuN's healthiest base. He is super respecting this. I think he's just waiting for the ghost. He's like, if I get the ghost out, I can just obliterate this army.
Yeah, Ghost Academy will get taken out, though. Force fields could split this. Careful, ByuN. Few Marines and Marauders get trapped up front. Astrea with some very good micro. Of course, those sentries, the moment they get EMP'd, the moment they don't have energy, they are dead weights, and they cost so much gas investment. But Astrea starting to now build disruptors. Remember, he's got that third base up. He's on 45 probes versus 37 SCVs. Maybe, just maybe, Astrea can sneak in a fourth base and work his way back into this game.
I love the disruptor play here, and I like the fact that he's still being constant about the DTs, knowing that that is the main that floated over. Here, this could be a good grab. I mean, oh, beautiful EMPs, though. I think only one sentry didn't get done there by the EMPs, and look at this, the Colossus. He only had 2 in his army. They're getting hunted down. And
massacre.
Absolutely all melted. I mean, lots of his army was still behind the force fields here, and Astrea, he's kind of forced to take a fight that he doesn't want to, but the disruptor from downtown doesn't get anything done, but supplies are still ridiculously close here. This is a great match between these two.
But losing the Colossus, the Immortal that had been alive all game long, now the disruptor and a few sentries. Astrea comes in with another wave of desperation force fields. He's trying so hard to hold the line, but the 1-1 Bio with the Medivacs and the Stim, as well as the EMP, is a much stronger force than Stalkers and Sentries.
Oh man, where are the shield batteries? Like, I feel that if he took any one of these fights near a shield battery, but he's had to re-establish his bases constantly.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very Marauder-heavy army, so against some Zealots, definitely doesn't do as well. The DTs, I love the fact he's sprinkling those in. And look at the supplies after all that.
Wow.
Still neck and neck.
I mean, Astrea's got a fourth base on the way. Dark Templar harass continues to get cleaned up by scans. This is crazy that Astrea is still alive. I always say, you know, Astrea's special characteristic in this matchup is his ability to take a punch. But, ooh, we could see there actually a punch on the table. ByuN is clearly experiencing some very serious wrist issues.
I mean, that punch won't help your wrists, I've got to say.
Probably the other hand, I think.
Probably the other hand. I mean, definitely always a problem. And I know Astrea's the kind of guy that'd be nice and he'd be like, oh man, I feel for you, man. But here, competition on the line, lives. I mean, this is a real big matchup for both these guys. They've both won a match, lost a match so far in the bracket stage. These two as well, they're neck and neck in this kind of game. It's just a brutal one.
Indeed. I like this mental tactic from Astrea. You know, when an unexpected pause comes in an intense moment, it's very easy to just get angry or frustrated because you're feeling your rhythm get disrupted. Instead, he's just kind of closing his eyes. You can tell he's kind of reviewing mentally, okay, what was I doing in the game? Remember that, because I have to pick up from exactly where I was in my list of tasks. And, okay, you know I'm behind in this. This is the one advantage I'm working to, looking for the disruptor shots. We're looking for the force fields to survive. I know I'm not going to beat that Bio army front on, so I've got to keep doing Dark Templar, Zealot backstabs. That's what Astrea is rehearsing in his mind right now. ByuN, on the other hand, is obviously just trying to rally and kind of recover both physically and mentally there while going through this. And hopefully we can get back into the match shortly.
Yeah, as detrimental it is for ByuN, you also got to feel a bit sorry for the guy on the other side because you're not used to playing matches where it gets paused and, you know, does sympathy start to roll in, like what's going on in his mind kind of thing. But yeah, I like what you said, just eyes closed, keep your mind on the prize, mind on the game. Where are you? Where is he? Because that kind of thing can really reset you quite hard. But so far, Astrea, he's looking fairly damn composed. And if I'm either one of these guys, it's ByuN that's still absolutely got to keep the pressure up here.
Yeah.
Keeping the headphones off, we won't talk about the game, obviously.
Yeah, no. It's been a really exciting series, though, so far. It's been very, very fun. And obviously supporting his teammate out there, Lambo in the audience. It's really cool to see this series, though. I feel like, you know, Astrea brings out the best in ByuN, and you really get to see just ByuN's excellence in terms of that multi-prong and how good he is at attacking and finding his ways in with the drops. There's something about Astrea's PvT series that are always entertaining and just such a pleasure to watch. I feel like day one's just been crazy in general with this new format. You know, Maru, Reina to kick things off. We've been having a lot of back and forth Zerg versus Terran series. It's all delivering. It's
nice seeing the elites and leaving the peasants over in that open bracket, you know, to do their thing kind of thing. But it's been nice to see some of the results coming out of there too. It's
yeah, there's been some really cool ones actually.
Some big sweeps coming in, you know, like Lambo, I know he did very well. Gabe did very well as well. Just to speak about some of the results going in. I saw those guys getting their makeup ready for their videos, moving on to the next phase.
Yeah, it's been a lot of action over there. I mean, it's one of those things as well where it's quite stacked, some of those open brackets that we were looking at earlier. I mean, I'm sure we'll be doing a proper update later, but it's good to see Lambo, DRG, Hero Marine, Shadone all showing up really well. I mean, Shadone apparently the king of PvP right now. He managed to take out Nightmare, Rail, and DNS. It's really kind of surprising there to see what's going on, but also you just got to look at the brackets and how difficult those are. Looks like Showtime has already progressed as well, one match in his group bracket C, but that's a very tough bracket with Ragnarok, Skillus, Geralt, and all the rest coming in as well. So it's going to be really cool to see where that goes as this day develops. And we are going to be coming right back, but first of all, we're going to go straight to the desk.
That's right. Thank you, gentlemen, here. A small interlude in the middle of this series, as quite clearly, I think for a lot of StarCraft fans, they probably know what's actually going on at present. Obviously, ByuN having a bit of a harder time with wrists, and is probably pausing for said reason, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it's no way to put it, very unfortunate moment as well, because that second game was amazing to watch. The third game, really feeling it. Thought the ByuN had it in the bag for the longest time. It's a bit awkward for us to really go into details because players might take the headset off as well.
Yes.
TLDR, it is an awesome game, very unfortunate moment to pause. And yeah, obviously, we all hope that ByuN will be okay, because no matter what happens here, we'll see more of him in the tournament. But of course, we want him to be able to play his best StarCraft.
That's right. So, of course, if you lose this series, you go down into the bracket round 3, the knockout bracket round 3, and if you do win this match, you go to the knockout bracket round 4, which actually is the match just before qualifying into the playoffs. So it actually is a big deal to make sure you actually win this series, because again, that knockout bracket award is going to be grueling for anybody to try and advance into the playoffs.
Well, you know, ByuN in his video earlier said, my goal is top 12, right? And if you win this, you're actually already top 12. Whereas if you lose this, you're only top 16, and we know that this knockout bracket's going to be brutal. There are going to be amazing players coming through every single round, so every win, it really does count. Win now, you don't have to get it done tomorrow. I think it takes a lot of pressure off.
There was a moment during this game in particular, which, again, we can't really talk too much about, but we thought it was over.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's kept going here, the resilience is quite commendable.
No, it's almost sad that we are here right now kind of almost talking about it, but not quite. Because this obviously has been a very entertaining best of 3, kind of what we hoped for, right? 2 players that can be very evenly matched, even if ByuN often gets the best of Astrea online. Offline, it can be a whole different ballgame. This has been very high-level StarCraft. I love that second game. It was a nail-biter towards the very end. And this the third one, we thought it was over, but kind of in an odd way that it currently looks over, but we're still obviously not there yet.
No, it was kind of a wild one, right? We stood up, we came over here, we're like, all right, it's done. Then by the time we got here, it's like, oh my god, it's not quite done. It's been pretty back and forth, actually. And I mean, just kind of credit to it being a cool series and kind of how scrappy these guys both can play.
Yeah, I'm just very happy for Astrea, though, that no matter how this turns out in the end here in Game 3, even though we're kind of starting to feel it a little bit for him, he's playing a much better series than he did against Reina. Because against Reina, he had good starts, but just wasn't able to capitalize on it. Now he's having difficult starts where maybe he's not behind, but he's holding his own and he's just playing very good StarCraft. What we expect from the ESL America's champion, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I would say even further than that, much better than he's played against ByuN in recent times. If you look at their record, it's been absolutely catastrophic for Astrea against ByuN, but it's down to the wire here, guys. We're just going to go to a break whilst we try and get everything good to go here on the stage. So when we return, hopefully we're back into Astrea versus ByuN.
What would you do if you had my life? Would you go hard just to have that ice? Nowadays dudes never had that fight. When the person talking about to add that spice.
And make them back up, back up.
What would you do?
And make them back up, back up.
And make them raise in the belly of the beast. Raise in the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
Number go.
Charged up.
Raise in the belly of the beast. Raise in the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
Number go.
Charged up.
That's all pro. What would you do if you had my life? Would you go hard just to have that ice?
And make them back up, back up.
And make them roll out, rush in, drop back, defense. What would you do?
And make them back up, back up.
What would you do if you had my life? Would you go hard just to have that ice? Nowadays dudes never had that fight. When the person talking about to add that spice.
And make them back up, back up.
What would you do?
And make them back up, back up.
And make them raise in the belly of the beast. Raise in the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up.
Raise in the belly of the beast. Raise in the belly beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up.
That's all pro. Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up. Charged up.
Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up.
That's all pro.
What would you do if you had my life? Would you go hard just to have that ice? Nowadays dudes never had that fight. When the person cooking about to add that spice.
And make them back up, back up.
What would you do?
And make them back up, back up.
Make them. Roll out, rush in, drop back, defend.
What would you do?
And make them back up, back up.
Make them.
And make them back up, back up.
Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up. Charged up.
Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up.
That's all pro. Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up. Charged up.
Raising the belly of the beast. Raising the belly of the beast.
Charged up.
I'm ready to go.
Charged up.
That's all pro.
It's my time, 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 it's my
I think about everything that I've done, challenges overcome, sacrifices I made in pursuit of being the one to take us out of this lunch, ready to scrap for crumbs, a million laps on the track until I clasp my lungs, but I ain't done. Let's take it to the maximum. I spaz before a champion in class of bombs, ain't never stop my rhythm. I'm like a massive drum. I set this beat on fire until the ashes come.
ESL StarCraft 2 Masters is brought to you in part by Monster Energy and U.S. Air Force.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ESL StarCraft 2 Masters. And after the interlude that we had in that series, we regret to inform you that, unfortunately, ByuN has forfeited the match due to what we were talking about earlier. So that is Astrea moving on into that round 4 of the knockout bracket, and ByuN will be going to round 3 of the knockout bracket. A little bit of a shame here, obviously, as that series was getting really good. Astrea did feel like he was gaining back momentum here, though, Rotterdam, but a little bit of a shame, question marks